focus. This is Polly, and this is going to be Polly's roadmap to success. Now, she's a great little dog. She's a little bit standoffish with people, and as I mentioned in the other video, that we had the Guardians hired another trainer who uses force and dominance, and I think that might have affected things. I think she's, from what I understand, maybe a little bit under-socialized as well, and so that could be a reflection of that as well. So we want to try to get her socialized with people as much as possible, and so I'm going to go all over what we did in this session. She likes to bark, especially people outside the fence. So one of the first things I did, sit. I'm only going to ask once. If she doesn't do it within 3 seconds, then it goes away, and then she lost that opportunity, and she has to wait for me to give her another one, which I will do in about a minute. So the neighbor, she likes to bark at the neighbors, and we have a fence where she can see through the fence. What I would do, the treats, I'm going to leave this bag here, but these are the treats I use: chicken liver. Now, because the yard, it's hard to see these treats, sit. Sit. Remember, anytime you use a treat, the treat should go in the mouth first, and they should hear the command word immediately after, and just the command word, not good sit, not Polly sit, not sit, just sit. So what I'd like the Guardian to do is get like a pack of string cheese like we would have for little kids, and then basically chop them up into little chunks so they're white and more visible. And then basically give them to your neighbor. When your neighbors come out in the yard, have them walk up to the fence and just say Polly, and as soon as she looks, toss the treat. Now within a day or two, they'll just walk to the fence and she's going to walk over towards them. And after a while, what we're doing is we're creating a positive association. Polly sees when the neighbors come out, the cheese falls from the sky. I like cheese, I'm part Italian, and so I'm going to be all about it. And so after a while, she, instead of being alert or something to warn about, that's a very positive interaction. Now, there's a trail behind the house, and she likes to go a fence fight, essentially, in the trail and yell at the people who are passing by through the means of barking. So what we could do is do the same sort of thing, get those cheese, maybe a little bit smaller parts, and then just have one of the Guardians one house away, and one Guardian the other house away, so the dog doesn't see you. And as people are coming by, just like, hey, I live in the next house, my dog likes to bark at people, would you mind throwing a piece of cheese over the fence? And so now you do it on a Saturday or Sunday or weekend when a lot of people are, Saturday or Sunday, both weekend, but all of a sudden she starts the same sort of association with the neighbor. When people come by, there's nothing to protect against. Cheese falls from the sky. We like the white of the string cheese because she'll see it a little bit easier. Now, I think that she's a demand barker, which means that she barks for attention, and I think it's worked. Now, for a lot of us, we train our dogs to do the things we don't want to do. When it steals remote control, we get up and chase it. When it starts chewing on the couch, we get up and correct it. Well, for dogs, attention itself is validating, and they don't put much of an emphasis on if it's positive or negative attention. And so if I misbehave, I immediately get my human's attention. If I come and sit in front of them, they ignore me most of the time. So a lot of what we went over in this session was how to create a positive association with different things, and also to condition the dog to want to do these things. So to flip what I call the leader-follower dynamic, I think part of her barking and part of her reaction is she thinks she needs to protect the humans, and the humans don't listen to it. And then we had the other trainer that came in, and they were using a lot of jerking every time she would bark. And so I think it did a couple things. She's not a fan of leashes and harnesses. I think that's an association that became negative because of that. And also it's not a pleasant experience for her. And so what we want her to do is start in the easiest capacity possible, which is going to be her home. So inside the house, we don't have to use the leash or the collar. Now, let's touch on that before I go to the next subjects. One of the Guardians is filming this right now. She's not. He can't get her to go with her on the walk. On a walk. He picks up the leash and she runs away. So what I showed him how to do is to help the dog practice approaching him and not moving away. So first he just took a couple steps towards where the leash was and called her. She came. She took the treat. And she walked away. He took one more step. He called her. She came. She took the treat. She only moved a little bit away. They did it again, and this time she lingered. And he kept on repeating that process until we got to where the leash was. Then we broke down getting leash in individual steps. If the Guardian practices that, the one that's filming this, if he practices this once or twice a day at times when we don't plan on taking the dog for a walk, so as soon as the dog starts to get to the point where she won't come any closer, then you just back up one step, help her practice that one step again, and then just put it up, and then just go back to watching TV or doing whatever you're doing. Practice again later on, and each time you should notice it's easier to get her to go a little bit closer, a little bit closer. When you get to where she's your next to leash, ask her to sit and then start reaching for it. And at any point she gets up out of the sit, either put it away and walk away, or just put it away and stand there and wait for her to sit again. But if she, like I said, is stiff or wants to move away, don't try to force her. Just go slow and steady is going to win the race. I also showed the Guardian. The Guardian's watched a lot of my videos, so they're already ahead of the game with a lot of these things. But one of the things I showed her how to do was a conditional emotional response. Now she does not like the leash or the harness. So what we did is we put it on the floor, and every time she came near it, we would drop a treat on it. And so we've been practicing this for a while, and she's looking at it, but she's stuck. She can't come all the way. So I'm going to help her and you can shoot her. So she can come over. Now, if she goes and she's looking at it, and then if she looks at it again, then I would drop a treat. In this case, she did, and she moved away. That's okay. She felt empowered. I can come over and check it out, and then I can move away, and nobody's forcing me to do anything. So now the second thing is I'm going to take a treat, and I'm just going to drop it in the middle of this stuff, and now she's got to come over and touch it and work for it to get that treat. And once she finds the treat, then she gets to move away. Now at this point, you see, she's not, before she would have immediately moved away, she would have leaned far in and went away. Now she's lingering, she's standing right over it. Nobody's trying to touch the leash, so it's not active, but normally she wouldn't even come close to it. So with a little bit of practice for this, so put this on the floor, and I would do the leash and the harness separately, drop a treat, so partially if she won't come towards it, and then gradually breadcrumb her there, and then start putting it inside the treat, inside the harness, and in areas where she's got to nudge and really work at it. Then the next one, you want to do the conditional emotional response, and you can use the same response. I have a video for that the Guardian already found, where you're basically going to have the harness behind you, flash it, hold it up. As soon as the dog looks at it, we drop a treat on the ground, and the harness goes away. And we do that several times. Sometimes I switch it and bring the harness out this way. Then eventually I do it if the dog's head's here, I bring it here, and the dog's not startled and moved away. And eventually the dog looks at it, and then I drop the treat, move away. Eventually I want the dog to touch her nose with it and walk away. Eventually what I do is I open it up on the floor, and I have the dog practice walking up to it. I just put one paw in there, I get the treat, and then I get to walk away. Eventually you'll be able to put it down. The dog will come over and put both of its paws on the area you want. You put the harness on, it's super duper easy. Okay, and that's really an encapsulation of what I do for a living, is I really show people how to break things down in individual steps, help the dog practice each step by itself in the easiest capacity possible. And once the dog has built up the confidence and the knowledge of how to do that step, only then do we move to the next step. And by doing this step by step and going at the dog's pace, not at our pace, the dog feels empowered, comfortable, and then we can move and make more progress. Okay, now I went over, the Guardian started adding some structure before the session, but I suggested some rules. One of the rules I suggested is not being allowed in the furniture for 30 days or as long as the problem's still going on. And once that is after the case, then only with an invitation. I'm laughing because the Guardian, one of the Guardians moved a dog bed where the dog was, and so she keeps on circling around wondering where it is. She moved it up. But in this weather, a hardwood floor is probably more desirable than sitting on it. But compliments on the dog bed, because that's exactly the type that I have. Okay, so let me see. So what we wanted to do is start enforcing rules. So one thing I forgot to go over was how to train a dog to leave a room or get off the couch on its own. Again, I'm very force-free. I don't want to punish a dog. So if the dog's here on the couch and I want it to get down, I say get down. The dog's like, I don't want to get down because I have status by being up here. So what I would do is I would touch the dog's nose with the treat and then toss the treat on the ground. Don't point it out. Don't entice. The dog knows it's there. Wait for her to get down. When she gets down, she probably will actually bark at you. Give me that treat is what she's going to be saying. But when she gets down, and if she just gets half down, then make sure you throw it farther away next time. She has to get all the way off. Once she licks it up, say the word off. Then at that point, I'm not going to allow her on the couch. I'm going to block if she tries to get on the couch. And then just, I also do the directional command for leaving rooms. So I go over to this room over here, the doorway, I touch the dog's nose with a treat, I toss the treat right outside of the room. The dog runs outside the room and gets it and licks it up. I would say the word out. And then the dog comes back, I do it a second time. I do it for each room in the house, and I help the dog practice leaving the room. And so eventually you say out, and the dog just goes out, and where's my treat? Okay, so we went over some rules, and one of the first rules is no furniture. So again, she gets on the furniture, do that. I showed the Guardians how they can keep her off the furniture when I'm gone off camera. And then at the end of 30 days, or whatever this period is, we can invite the dog up as a privilege. It's a one-time exception. So if I invite Polly up and she gets up and she starts barking, now she has to get down. I would say off or toss the treat. Preferably, we would like her to get off without tossing the treat. We just do that initially. Or if she gets down to get a drink of water, when she comes back, she needs another invitation to get back up. Same sort of thing for the bed. If she wants to go in into her, the human's bed, she would get permission, but again, I would try to restrict that for about a month or so as well, and just keep on doing what you're doing. Right now, the Guardian's putting her in a kennel, And so what we can do is do that for a period of time, for maybe another week or two, and then start closing the door to the bedroom while the guardian is sleeping and the kennel door is open. So we don't allow the dog to be on the bed, but she can be in the room. And you probably wake up and she'll probably be on the bed, just kick her off. But the idea is to help her practice that, and eventually the dog should only be allowed in the bed with an invitation from a human. You have to work for that one a little bit. Okay, so another rule that we went over is having to sit at the door. Make sure they sit, and if the dog doesn't sit, walk away for longer and longer periods of time. So tell her to sit. If she doesn't sit within 3 seconds, and walk away, wait 1 minute, then come back again a minute later and tell her to sit again. If she doesn't sit within 3 seconds, walk away for 2 minutes, and for 4 minutes, and 8 minutes. Eventually she'll go and sit at the door. Now we have a dog door here, so we might want to temporarily close the dog door when we're practicing that, because otherwise she's just like, whatever, I'll just take the dog door. You're gonna linger, so let's give you another one to go hunt for. All right, so other rules: not being allowed to be within 7 feet of a human who's eating, or while the humans are eating something or preparing something in the kitchen. Remember to use practice rounds, so heat up some bacon or roast beef or Canadian bacon or something like that to help the dog practice. Oh, you nudged that up pretty good, didn't you? Let's throw another one in there and make you really work for that one. And so we're helping the dog basically practice leaving the room. Did you find it? No, I can see it. I know where it is. You don't. You'll find it. Your nose is better than mine. But by practicing that and helping the dog practice smelling the bacon or whatever while the humans are practicing, we get to give the dog our full attention and help the dog practice the behavior we want. And eventually the dog just learns when they're in the kitchen, I'm not allowed to go in there. Off camera, I showed the guardians how to claim the area around the door. If you forget how to do that, remind me. I have a bunch of videos I can share with you and show you how to do that. Yeah, she's breathing up a good storm. Let's get that one too. Let me see. When we're playing fetch, make her drop the ball and sit, and then pick it up and throw it. And then after a while, ask her to sit and wait for a second, and then 2 seconds, and 3 seconds. The idea is to incorporate delayed gratification. You have to sit before I let you open the door. You have to sit and wait before I pick up the ball and throw it again. These are all things that help the dog see the humans as being more of an authority figure. I think in her case, she thinks she's in charge of protecting the humans, but the humans don't listen to her. And so that stresses her out, and she has cortisol in her blood, and that doesn't help. And then all the corrective measures that we were using with the leash also probably didn't help. So now the guardians have some different leash techniques, and the more that we enforce these rules, the more the dogs start to see the humans are in charge. I don't have to protect them, I don't have to protect myself, and that helps with a lot of dogs with their dog reactivity. Let me see, what else? We went over petting with a purpose and passive training. Forget how to do those, message me, but really emphasize those and use those watchwords. Paycheck means if you forgot to pet with a purpose. Testify means you missed an opportunity to recognize and reward the dog. But if every time she comes to me, I pet her and say, come, then she's more inclined. Now she's standoffish with a lot of people, but so eventually that won't be the case. So right now, just give her the treat and then let her move away. We want to use as little force and as little snatching as possible to rebuild up that trust. And that's going to be a really important part of her rehabilitation. But the more that we reward her for sitting, coming, laying down, the more she will emulate those behaviors. And now she knows what she can do to make us happy and to contribute to the group. And she'll keep on offering those behaviors more and more often, and instead of offering the other nuisance behaviors we don't like her doing. Let me see, what else? Use the escalating consequences to disagree with unwanted behaviors. Don't use them when she's reacting to another dog. If she's reacting to another dog, remember the first thing to do is we're just going to increase the distance until she stops reacting. If we have to, move her out of car, truck, shrubbery, and then do a little bit of the focus exercise, which is the video above. Practice the focus exercise really for 2 weeks. Really practice that a lot and follow the instructions that I went above. If you get to the point after 2 weeks, if you follow those instructions when you're on a walk and she sees another dog, like I said, not like I said on camera, but off camera, usually the first sign is a stare, and they freeze, and their tail starts coming up, the hackles go up. One of you might want to actually walk in the street with the other person walking the dog and filming it, and then when you see another dog, the person can narrate, or ideally I'd have the dog and the other dog in the distance so I can kind of see both. But this way you can watch it later on a computer screen and watch it in slow motion. You can see the dog's mannerisms. Maybe she just rotates her ears forward. Maybe she lowers her head or whatever it is. Now she's getting exercise, but probably not enough exercise. So I'd like to see the guardians fetching more often, walking more often. You can use potentially a doggy backpack. You can also Google scent games. Using scent or tracking with the nose is a very, it's not physically, but it's mentally draining for the dog, and that will achieve the same results. Mom's doing a good job right now of a little passive training. She just walked over on her own and got her a nice reward, and she's lingering near mom. And so the more that we do this, the more that's what we should start seeing her being less jittery, less running away, and being more relaxed and confident. Is there anything else I'm forgetting? Oh, feeding. We didn't go over feeding. I believe the guardian's already watched my video on this, but make sure that whoever's feeding her eats something first, and then gives her permission to eat. And once she walks away from the bowl, if she leaves food in there, pick up the bowl, dump the food, and put the empty bowl back down. I use passive training to assign a funny command word. I say grub, chow, feast. You might want to say supper or comida if you speak Spanish, or maybe your favorite restaurant. I also name the dog beds. I would call maybe one Boji, maybe one's East Boji, West Boji, is that how it goes? It's been a long time since it's been Okoboji. I just remember algae and not as much algae. But you know, come up with fun command words. Like the guardians go to Okoboji a lot, so that can be something that's kind of funny and it kind of resonates a little bit. And also I want the guardians to go to YouTube and alternate. Pick at least 4, but if you do more, that'll be more helpful. When you have an insecure dog, the more that we can teach them to boost their confidence, the more self-aware they're going to be and more relaxed they're going to be in different situations, and that's going to help her with all sorts of problems. Remember, when you're asking her to come, if she stops, start going down to the floor. Eventually you get to the point where, of course, you're not going to do it on camera. There you go, she comes to you. To make her sit, I usually raise it over the dog's head. Say sit. Yeah, we're dealing with this, I see. Let's take away the negative. Sit. You're almost there. Always try to come back to the dog's nose when you're using a treat. If she stops tracking, like she did there, come back. Sit. Now at this point, I think I don't want to sit. And we've been working with her for about 4 hours. So she's going to be wiped out. And when you're doing training with your dog, you're really 1 or 2 minute training sessions maximum. A lot of what I do is training the humans. We'll get you there. So she has to do what I ask her to do. Now you see how she's leaning with her feet a little bit? That tells me she's not fully comfortable. Sit. Sitting is a more supportive position, but also it's something a dog will not do if they don't fully trust the person that they're around or the situation. So it could be a little bit of that. And like I said, it's a little bit on edge because we've been doing a lot of things. We've been working for a long time. But if the guardians go to YouTube and each one of them alternate, pick an easy dog training trick, something you achieve in a day, and then practice it all week long. And the next week, the next guardian picks a trick, and you're going to alternate back and forth. And at the end of 8 weeks or 12 weeks or whatever it is, now your dog knows 10, 20, 30 different tricks and commands. Makes it easy to redirect the dog's attention. Also, it's going to help you be a little bit more in tune with the dog. And also in you guys' situation, because of the punishment-based training methods, created a little bit of a trust problem. Just like us, we have actually a professor that's in the family, and professors help people. We're getting some eye rolls, but that's true. Professors, we have mentors, and typically we have a lot of respect for our mentors because they help us become a better person by helping guide part of our journey of life. And so if we can help the dog develop new skills, that will help have a deeper relationship with us in a positive way, while simultaneously increasing the dog's confidence. So we really help, and it's pretty fun when you get in a habit of doing it. You teach your dog to do all these tricks, and you're like, wow, my dog can grumble and roll over and play dead and fetch me a beer from the fridge and do all these fun things. And the dog, they want to please us. And now we give the dog many more ways to please us. So instead of barking and lunging at people come by, I can go fetch you your slippers, or I can do whatever it is. That was a very good crash. Okay, well, I think that's just about all I can remember for this session. Now, if you guys have questions, please call or text me. If I don't hear from you, I assume everything's going great. Now, based on where she's at, I would love to hear in a month that she's fine. But if not, in about a month was when we'd like to set up a bat training session where I can bring a dog and a handler ourselves and have enough distance in a neutral location, help her practice this, and then show the guardians the technique when they're not a little overwhelmed, as I've kind of overwhelmed them with a lot of stuff as well. Let me see, anything else? Think of anything else? So, all right, well, let's see if we can get Polly to come over. Polly, come. Let's get you to sign off, sweetheart. I'll give you this one without sitting. Come. This is Polly. This is her roadmap to success. Remember, everything you do trains your dog. Only sometimes you mean it.